what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drew B. Wilson, with more than 2 decades in sales. I've seen it, been through it, heard about it. Now I'm bringing it to you, my favorite people in the world, the sales community, because this is the greatest job on the planet. Let's just be honest. Doesn't matter where you come from, what personality, what background, you can create an amazing life in sales. And what I'm really excited about is today's guest is no stranger to the journey. He's a guy that's just been absolutely out there crushing it. And I'd like to welcome my friend, Mr. Darren Saul. How are you, brother?
Hey, good day, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you taking some time. I know it's a little early where you're from. So being here, getting things going and rock and rolling with us, man, I appreciate you being here.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Well, listen, I want to jump right in, man. I want to hear a crazy sales story. What do you got for me?
Perfect. Well, this is something that happens to me all the time. I work as a corporate recruiter. That's one of the things I do. And it's a great lesson for me to never, and for other people to never assume anything. So as a corporate recruiter, we're always trying to match candidates with clients and, the right fit, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of the time, the information and the assumption that people can make from the information that they read or that they see or things that I say don't always match up with what they think they have in their head. So, for example, I'm always advertising, I'm always talking to candidates, and they're always saying, oh, you know what, Darren, that job is not for me. I think I'm going to pass on that one. They say, oh, you know what, let's go for something else. The salary's too low, the salary's too high, whatever. It's not for me. And I always say, you know what, hold on. I'm just going to, let's try and think of things from a very blanket point of view. And why don't you just go for the interview? So I always try and coerce people to just go and have a conversation. And then all of a sudden, a job that they thought was not for them, after that initial conversation becomes, wow, I love this company. I love the sound of this job. I want to work for these people. What's the next steps? So I have to turn around someone's enthusiasm and suitability, and it happens 360 after one conversation. But to get there, it can be a big journey. So it's a great assumption to never assume anything and to kind of be open-minded, explore, because what you think you see in front of you might not always be exactly what it is.
And that is a truth. As someone who has looked at dozens of resumes over the year and thought, man, this guy sounds like a stud. Like, this is for sure my savage. I'm bringing them in. They're going to be my number one producer, like, for sure. And then you sit them down and you start, you ask them a couple of questions and it doesn't even line up and you go, what in the world? But same is true on the opposite end of, hey, sometimes on paper things don't really make a lot of sense, but it's at least worth exploring. And that's what I love about sales is there's so many opportunities to show up and just see what's possible. And so what I'd love to know from the perspective of, corporate recruiting, sales is kind of a nuanced thing for you because you're selling a service, obviously, but you're also working with people and selling, convincing them to take these opportunities and to explore what that looks like. So what would you say has kind of become your superpower to help kind of move that needle forward in this process?
Yeah, I love that question. And honestly, the more and more I sell in recruitment, and I've been recruiting now for close to 25 years, the more I realize is that if you conduct the process properly from the beginning, you don't have to sell as much or sell it all at the end. And that is something that is profound because a lot of people think, let's just do a half-assed job at the beginning and get everybody talking, and then I've got to sell an opportunity and close an opportunity. But if you do things well from the beginning and throughout the process, it almost closes itself. And that is huge from a sales point of view because as a corporate recruiter, you're a broker essentially, and you're selling on both sides of the fence and you're matching and bringing people closer together. And you're shortening the gap between one person's expectations and another person's expectations to kind of bring everybody onto the same page. But follow up and along the way, really important, building relationships along the way, meeting expectations, managing expectations, doing what you say you're going to do, and just really slow and steadily, in a nicest way and in the most genuine way possible, bringing people further through the process with all the information they need, allowing them to ask questions, allowing them to feel that they're engaged in the process. If you do that well, it sells itself at the end. You don't even have to push. And that's huge.
I love that, and to me, it's the consultative approach. It's kind of
Yep.
the, hey, that you have as a recruiter, the individual that's going to go work, the talent, let's call them, they've got the skill set, they've got the thing that the corporation, the business needs, and also the talent needs the corporation. You got to have the two
Absolutely.
together, and so what I love about your role and I got a follow up question, but I want to touch on what you
Yeah,
said
sure.
about it. It's just doing the right thing, helping people,
Absolutely.
getting them where
Yeah.
they need to be, and showing them the path. And so, what I love and where I'm curious for you, Darren, is that you're not technically like fiduciary duty to these people because you
Yeah.
don't have to like have a license to do this necessarily, but really,
Yep.
your job is to negotiate on both sides of this coin. You
Yeah.
have to negotiate for the business to say like, hey, these are the terms and this is what they're willing to give up. And then from the other standpoint of the talent, I'm just going to keep calling them the talent at this point because
Yep.
that's what's
Perfect. Great word. That's the
just
word
keep
we
it simple.
use.
Is it really?
Yep. We
Oh
use,
man,
we
check
talk
me
about
out.
recruiting talent. That's exactly the word we use.
See, I've learned a thing or two over the
Well
years.
done.
And what I love and would be curious from your perspective is, how do you put on your, all right, I'm corporate representative hat now,
Yeah.
into, let me hang up this call and turn it around and go, all right, talent man, I'm here for you, dog. Let's talk. What is that nuance like, and how do you differentiate sales? When you're selling to the corporate person and more to the talent side.
Yeah. Great question. The most important thing is to always kind of allow people to realize that you're a broker. You're in the middle. You're not just there for one person or another. You're kind of in the middle and you're facilitating the conversation that's going to lead to an outcome. So when I talk to a recruiter, a candidate or a talent, um, then we say, look, this is what my client generally does. This is what my client generally likes. This is kind of where the salary might fall. These are the bonuses you're going to get. Are you cool with that? Are you open-minded? Are you happy to have that conversation? And then when I talk to my clients, the same thing. The candidate is wanting this minimum because of these reasons. They have a certain lifestyle. They need these opportunities for growth. Are you cool? Can you meet those? So you're kind of trying to make sure that you're staying in the middle and you're not taking one side versus another. You're allowing people to, you're facilitating, you're in the middle, you're a broker. I think that's the key. So you don't want to pretend that you're only backing one person, one side than the other. You're there for both and you're helping people get together.
I absolutely love that. And my wife is going to love this episode because she calls me a facilitator all the time. Because when
Yeah.
people ask her, like, what does he do? She's like, well, he facilitates things
Yeah, I
and
love
he
that.
just helps people get stuff done. And that's his job. And that's the cool thing about being a facilitator is that we just get to be creative problem solvers. We just
100%.
get to look at it and go, okay, cool. Here's where you're at. Here's where you're at. Here's the tools and resources that are available. Let's build us a bridge to happiness. And, my job is to build a bridge that you guys can walk between and be cool. And I get paid to build the bridge and move on to the next
Yep.
part of the lane. And how did you end up in recruiting? Like, what was that? Like 25 years, you got to love it. How did you end up there to begin with?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I've done a few different things, and at a certain point, my brother said to me, "You know what? Why don't you try recruiting? That might be fun." And I thought, you know what? I've actually been down the recruitment process many times as a candidate, and that was quite interesting. And I thought, you know what? It's a job that works with people. It's a sales based job, which I kind of enjoy. Why not? So I just started exploring, and then I was on the train in Sydney, in Australia, years and years ago. We used to have a magazine on the train that is given out for free. It was called the 9 to 5 magazine. And in the magazine, there was a little ad. It said, looking for recruiters, training will be provided. Give us a call. So I said, you know what? Nothing to lose. I gave him a call, and it was actually one of the most um, prominent and one of the first IT recruitment agencies in Sydney or in Australia it started in the 70s. And this was another derivative of that over a few generations. A few people had taken it over and rebranded it. And I went in for an interview, met with a few people, went through a few other interviews, and they said, you know what? Give him a go. We'll train him up. And it's been a journey ever since.
Isn't that so fun? And that's what I love about sales. That's why the intro is this. Is it's like it doesn't matter where you come from or
Yeah,
what personality you have. There's a way to find a successful lane in sales. And what's really
definitely.
interesting about it is that, and I can see this in you, Darren. I always know when I'm interviewing someone who is like cut from the same cloth,
Yeah,
is everything that you said sales related has always just come back to serving and helping people.
yeah,
And often what I find is someone who's trying to find their way in sales, or they're like not real sure if sales is for them. They're looking at sales as just a way to make money, which, yeah,
100%.
you can certainly make a lot of money in sales. Don't get me wrong. That's a lot of us get here. A lot of times, though, we didn't have a choice. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go do this thing, and I'm going to just focus on helping people, because at the end of the day, you don't have to have any super special skills to help people. All
Agreed.
you got to do is just ask questions and have conversations. So
Yeah,
you had
I love
mentioned
that.
this a little bit, kind of like the pre-qualifying and making sure people are the right fit. So what does your process look like for pre-qualifying your candidates or pre-qualifying your clients, and how did you develop that process?
Yeah, well, it is a fun one. From the candidate point of view, one thing that I do these days is do video interviews like this, and I record them and I share them with my clients. So that's something that's really people are starting to do that more and more. But I kind of just fell into this years and years ago because a client said to me, "Oh, Darren, can you just record a video? Can you record an interview for me?" I thought, I've never done that. Let me try and find some software. He says, "Try this." It was a screen recording or video recording software. I said, "All right, let's do it." And then it kind of just developed from there. And I started doing this a little bit before the industry as a mainstream started doing it. And now there's lots of products and tools that are available just for that because of technology, particularly over the last so many years. So that's a real game changer. And clients say to me, "Oh, Darren, I need the video. Where's the video?" Because again, when you're looking at a piece of paper, that's all you see. It's one dimensional. But if you see a video of me talking to somebody about what they've been doing, that gives you a much better insight into who they are and how they're going to fit into your organization than a piece of paper, you know? So it's really
Ooh,
powerful.
you know what? I love that. And just because I'm a guy that when I get an idea like this, I have to write it out or put it somewhere and put it out into the universe. But I just got this idea that I love that recording the interview process. That's super powerful. I
Mm.
know, people who I've hired to help me find recruiting talent, they've taken me through that process. They've recorded the trainings. It's all put together. And all I could think was, Darren, I personally, in my own business, just recently went back and I had taken a bunch of recorded sales calls, and I got the transcription, and I had a tool analyze the conversation and create,
Yep.
a breakdown and a concept of the individual so that I could get a clearer vision of my client avatar, the people that I work with. And all I could
Perfect.
think was, man, how powerful to take those interviews with your candidates and be able to have those transcripts and analyze them and then compare that to the resume and all the other things that they send you, and be able to go to your client and say, hey, listen, here's the interview, here's the analyzing of it, this is
Yep.
what they say, this is why we know statistically they're going to be a great fit for you. I just nerded out on my own self in there, so don't mind me,
Yeah,
Darren, as I
absolutely.
verbally process, but like,
But my
this is
clients
what's so
absolutely
cool.
love it. Yep. They love it.
I love that. And that's the thing that I think, when you do something different, when you separate yourself from all of the other sales professionals out there, because let's be honest, you're not the only recruiter in
Oh, no,
Australia. You're
definitely not.
certainly not the only recruiter probably within like a 50-mile radius of you.
Definitely.
So
It's a huge industry. Yeah.
it can be, because there's a lot of people looking for opportunity. And it was just like you saw something, you decided, hey, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and see what happens. And now at your level of the game, what do you start to look for when you're trying to bring people onto your team and teach them how to go through this process of consultative selling and kind of differentiating themselves from everybody else?
Yeah, great. Now I've always liked to work as a solo operator. That's kind of me. I work on my own, but I outsource different parts of the process, like bookkeeping and sometimes reference checking and other bits and pieces to other people. But I like to
Mm.
work on my own. But generally, a lot of people do come to me throughout the years and they say, "Oh, so recruitment sounds fun. I want to be a recruiter. What's it about? What does it entail?" And I always say to people, it kind of comes back to exactly the conversation of this episode, is that a lot of people don't realize how much of a sales job recruitment is. Like recruitment is a sales role. You are a broker. You are always selling and influencing, but you've got to do it with authenticity and a genuine approach, and you've got to love people because recruitment is all about satisfying people and emotions and expectations, and sometimes it's an incredible feeling when you can find someone a new job and they've changed their life. So it's a fun job, but there's a lot of sales involved. A lot of people get nerded out and geeked out with the process and the technology, but they forget about the sales part of it, and they forget about the interaction and the influencing the outcomes part of it. So they get obsessed about all the way the resume looks and how I'm going to send you the template and all that kind of stuff. But that stuff doesn't make money. That stuff's just pretty, but you've got to make sure that you constantly honing your sales skills and learning about why didn't that conversation work as well as I thought? What could I do better? Or why did that work? So it's a very much a sales role. And that's what I tell all people that come to me and say, what's recruitment like? Because they might not always be prepared for that.
Well, and I like the idea of being able to explain that it is sales. And I
Yep.
think most people forget that everything in life is sales, whether it's personal, professional, you're selling. And
Definitely.
as someone, even as a solo operator, you've learned to delegate, you've learned to focus where your energy can be best spent to get the maximum ROI. Because
Exactly right.
time, energy, and effort are the only assets that we can't get more of. We all know how to go to make more money,
Yeah.
but those three are really powerful. So, what was the first step for you in your journey? Because there's probably someone listening who's like, man, I'm doing all of this by myself right now. I would love to, recruit some talent to delegate some of this stuff off my plate. What did that process look like for you when you first started delegating? And if you could maybe recommend some tips or tricks for us that need to go and delegate some of those off our plate.
Yeah, you bet. And that's a really good conversation, especially right now, because everybody's talking about AI and everybody's saying, oh my God, how can I use AI to help me in my role? And in recruitment, we say, use AI, and AI is just like another word to say delegation. You can use a person, you can hire a person, you can use a tool, and AI is brilliant for this now. So it's kind of given us a lot of opportunity to save a lot of money because we don't have to hire people. We can use a tool to do the same thing. But there's some occasions where you're going to actually have to hire a person. Maybe you might have to hire a bookkeeper. You might have to hire someone to do a physical reference checking. You might have to hire someone to whatever. But the unwritten rule is really the most important part of the recruitment process is the people to people and the influencing and the nuanced part of the conversation and the relationship. So that's what you don't want to outsource. That's what you want to keep because I need to be the person in the trenches, talking to the other people, explaining things, putting my clients and candidates together, managing expectations. I need to be the person doing that because it's all built on relationships. The other stuff, that sending the reminders and the interview details and all that can be done either by another person, maybe a freelancer or a virtual assistant, or a piece of tech. So you have to just know that the tech stuff is great for all the stuff that's not going to that's not going to drive the real outcome from an influencing point of view. That's great. All that stuff that can happen behind the scenes, use tech or use another person. But the stuff that's going to be the sales and relationship driven stuff, You've got to do it, because if you give it to someone else, that's where it falls apart.
Oh, Darren, you just got me all excited and fired up, because this is something that I've seen going on a lot lately, and I've been calling people out on it. So this episode's another great time to do that. What I've seen so many business owners, entrepreneurs doing is they're delegating or outsourcing the relationship building process.
Terrible.
And where you see this a lot right now is people that install these AI bots on their social media platforms, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, and they're like having conversations with people and replying to threads, and you're going, that's kind of a weird way to approach that conversation, or that response doesn't make any sense. And it's those people who are trying to outsource the relationship building process. And I both cringe and I cry for them at the same time, because that's the one part of your business that you should be focused on.
Yep.
Because as Darren said, yeah, you can use tech, you can recruit talent to fill some of these roles, but the person to person, the relationship, that's where trust is formed. Yep. And that trust is how you're able to serve, how you're able to convince the corporate guy to spend an extra couple of $1,000s a year to bring on the guy that's going to go to work. And that's how you go to him and go, listen, man, like, I'm here to fight for you, but these guys, they're going to only go so far, and you don't want to make them mad. So, like, let's meet here in the middle. And you're able to do that because you've built the relationship. Definitely. And these AI goofballs, man, this is what I'm waiting for it to happen. And I know it's going to happen because I've seen it just regularly. But someone else is communicating. They're building a relationship. And all of a sudden, you, as an individual, you show up at an event or a meet and greet or something, and you go to shake the hand of someone that you believe you've been talking to this whole time. You've told them your whole life story, and they're like, hey, it's great to meet you. And the letdown, the inner gut feeling is going to be so bad. I think all of us are internally going to hear it, feel it, and go, oof. And so I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Don't use the AI to outsource relationships, because that's the part to focus on. So thank you, Darren. I really appreciate that.
My pleasure. And one thing I'll just kind of nuance with that, like I do, and it's fine, I think, to use AI to just do that initial outreach, that initial message, if it's done in a nice way. But as soon as you get a response, that's where the human has to take over. You can't let the bot or the AI tool continue the conversation. You can, because sometimes these days there's a lot of scale that you can achieve using some of those tools, and can save a lot of time on the initial approach, the cold approach. But as soon as you get a bite, a human has to jump in. That's kind of where I would draw the line.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that's one of those things where, it's like fishing. Hey, there's nothing wrong with tying up 30, 60 fishing poles and tossing them out there and having some lines in the water. Yeah. And also, though, at a certain point, if you're not there to feel the fish take that tug and rip the lip, what's going to happen? You got to be on it. And so, Darren, I really appreciate the way that you've approached recruiting, the things that you've shared on it, because to me, it definitely opened up a new mentality of seeing both sides of it, because I'm a business owner and I have to recruit people to work for me. And also have to, at some point, remember they're people and probably have needs and desires too. So maybe I need to find someone like you that I can reach out and just say, hey, man, this is who I need. How do I find them? And, as far as I know, we could probably sit here and nerd out on sales all day. But I want to be respectful of your time. So what's the best way for me and anyone who's hung out with us today to come and check out more about what you do, how you help people, and learn more about your business?
Yeah, sure. So my recruitment business is just really easy. It's just Saul Recruitment, which is SAUL recruitment.com.au. And anybody can jump on the website. There's loads of great resources for talent that are looking to learn more about the nuances of becoming better at approaching the conversation of recruitment and finding jobs, and talking about how to negotiate pay rises and all that stuff, and getting their resume up and running and preparing for interviews and all that stuff. So there's lots of free resources. There's lots of videos. I have a podcast about it. So there's all sorts of great stuff you can find all on the website. And I hope that kind of helps people in their journey. Because, as I always say, preparation is everything. The more prepared you are and the more nuanced you are, the better you are, the more confident you are, the more competent you are in an interview, in an interaction, and that's where you can drive results.
You know what I love about that is someone who's constantly trying to learn. I want to go and check out those resources because I'm sure there's probably a way that I can look at that and go, hey, here's how I can sell myself better as a candidate to someone that might want to hire me to come and consult for their business.
Absolutely.
And so I appreciate you sharing that. And that's why I like working with professionals, Darren, because, you know, we're willing to give and pour and share all of the recipes, all of the things that help us be successful, because at the end of the day, it truly is the relationships that we get to build. And I am grateful that we had a chance to build some relationship today, to get connected, and that you took some time to pour into my audience of people who I know as sales professionals, business owners, entrepreneurs are getting to that point where they're going to have to recruit. They're going to have to bring people in to help them take that stuff off their plate to focus on the things they do best.
Mate, absolute pleasure. I've had an absolute ball. I could talk about this stuff forever because I'm very passionate about sales and about human interaction and managing expectations. So always happy to explore.
Well, I appreciate it. And I'm sure there may be a season 2 where I'll have to bring you in for the next round of questions and conversation, because I know there's a lot of stories in there, man.
I love to, man.
Awesome. So well, listen, if you guys are here, you enjoyed the show, make sure you go follow Darren. Make sure you check out his resources. I know I'm going to be checking them out. And more than anything, subscribe. Tell your friends, put this episode out there, tag us on social media, let us know you got some value, because that's why we do this. We truly just want to give and help others find that lane, find their level of success. Sales is an amazing place to do that if you're willing to call the damn leads. And if you do, you're going to have some great stories, and we'd like to bring you on the show to share those stories. So go to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Send us your info, get plugged in. We'll see you guys on the next one. Go call the damn leads.